Welcome to the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. On this podcast, we believe that the culture of academia needs to change radically. Women and non-binary people are revolutionizing academia within institutions that were not built for us. If you're ready to reject the culture of overwork, kick guilt and overwhelm to the curb, and amplify your voice to make a real impact on your field without breaking down or burning out, you're in the right place. With our team of experienced writing coaches as co-hosts, we'll share insights and talk to inspiring guests to bring you the practical strategies, systems, and mindset shifts you need to find time to write, publish work you love, and design your career on your terms. And it all starts with writing. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to this very special episode of the Academic Writing Amplified podcast. I'm your host, Cathy Mazak, and today we have an interview that I think is just so interesting. Well, it really for everyone, but especially for those of you who are later in your career or are administrators and post-tenure. So today we have on the podcast, Dr. Lali McCubbins, and she is going to explain to you a little bit about where she is in her career, what she studies, her administrative position, and then why she decided to do Navigate when she did. She's already a full professor. And some of you listening might be having the thought, I'm already associate, or I'm already full, or I'm late in my career, so I should know how to get my publications out the door by now. But Lali is going to explain to you why even people, and maybe especially people who are associate professors and even full professors, need the Navigate program. So I can't wait for you to hear her experiences in the program, but also her kind of very sharp take on women in academia. So please enjoy this interview with Lali. Hello, and welcome back to the podcast Academic Writing Amplified. Today we have a special guest. Lali, will you introduce yourself to our podcast audience?
Hello. Aloha. My name is Lali McCubbins. I am a professor in counseling psychology. I am fortunate. I just made full professor.
Woohoo!
Woohoo! So yes, it can be done. And I'm also an administrator. I am a chair of a department. So I oversee 4 programs: educational, school, and counseling psychology, as well as quantitative and psychometric methods.
Wow.
So that's kind of what I do. In terms of my research, I particularly look at risk and resilience factors or pathways to resilience or overcoming adversity, particularly among BIPOC communities. I focus mostly on Native American, Asian American, and Pacific Islander populations. I've also worked with Latino populations. So just to give you that idea, my background, I'm Native Hawaiian and Japanese and white. And so with that, just because of systemic racism and that kind of thing, I identify more strongly as Native Hawaiian and Japanese, because back in when my parents were married, that was during the loving time period. And my dad was Hawaiian and Japanese, but considered a colored man. And therefore they were not supposed to get married. So instead they got married and had 3 kids. So
I love it. Yes.
So does that help give you a background on who I am?
Yes, I love it. You're out there disrupting as your parents disrupted in the good way. I love it. I love it.
Good trouble.
Yes, good trouble. All right. So let's talk about Navigate. And the first question is, when you were thinking about joining, what was it that you were trying to achieve, or what was your reason, for joining?
Yeah. I can tell you in terms of my journey, I looked at the NCFFD, I think it's called. I paid for that individually, and then my college got it. And so I did a little bit of theirs. I couldn't afford the big package, but I did their webinars and some of those kinds of things in their little mini writing retreats. I also then got this book called How to Write by Dr. Cathy Mazak. I don't know if you've heard of her.
Yay.
I bought it and I read 2 chapters on a plane ride to a conference. And I was like, this person speaks to me. This person like gets me. Like it's written in a way of what I'm looking for rather than this kind of all of these things. I felt like it's writing. That is my difficulty. That is my challenge. And really, it's a time management challenge, as well as my own perfectionistic tendencies and people pleasing, to be honest. And so those are just the factors. So then I got into Navigate and I liked it. The biggest thing I liked about it is because each lesson, it's not like, oh, I learned it, check a box and go to the next one. It's a constant kind of reiteration. Like it's kind of like having a coach and training you as an athlete into the foundations that you need so that you have good performance rather than like good behaviors, good techniques, good form, and that builds your endurance. And so that's how. And then with the Navigate, this is the second batch of time. It was really important because it created a community. And it created a community of women, and particularly women of color or women from diverse backgrounds, or just women in academia. And I think that resonated with me and that kind of echoed. And every time we met together. And so there was a sense of solidarity, even just when you're working and when you're talking and having coaching sessions. And with that, just to let you know, it's like a ripple in a pond. You throw a rock and then ripples is now I'm doing similar setups in my research team.
Yay. Awesome.
So I have the alternate work and then, okay, let's talk or present or that kind of thing. And so I'm just starting that out and I've gotten some positive reactions.
Awesome. I love that because when I personally, think about impact, I think like, whoa, I need every academic to take Navigate. That's how I'll have impact. But then quite a few years ago, I had the thought like, no, what I need is to try to impact the people who find me and try to reach out and attract those people like you, right? In their embodying the changes that I'm talking about, they will help those around them, to do it. So that's great. I love it. So you got a lot on your plate because you're doing admin and you're leading a research team. So why was it important for you to do Navigate like at this point in your career?
I think because, it's one of those things I think as a woman of color and just things, I had a really strong imposter syndrome and that I felt like I had to constantly prove that I was worthy enough to be at the table. And that doesn't go away when you get tenure and it doesn't go away when you get promoted. And I thought when I got the pinnacle at full professor, I would officially be in that cool room in academia where there's like swanky ropes and a bottle of Cristal waiting for you and cushy couches. And like you get to full professor and it's the same room, but it's also different. It's because the room may be the same, but your perspective fundamentally changes. And so with that, I think becoming full professor, it allowed me to finally take the space that I should have taken earlier of what do I want to do? Mm-hmm. What is it that I want to leave my mark? And what are the things that I want to invest in? Not just to people please, not just to get that next promotion, not just to be liked or to prove that I'm worthy to be here, but just really, what do I want to do in this last stage of my career? And so I think that's why, and that's a very liberating place to be. And it's also a very scary place to be because you have to ask yourself some really big questions and really confront that imposter syndrome.
Yeah. And I don't know about you, but I turned 50 this year, last month, and I'm like, okay, time's running out. Like, what am I going to do? And those big questions are really important at all career stages, but especially, the last third of your career.
Yeah. And I'm in my 50s now and I've earned my gray hair. And also though, with that, people don't tell you the insidiousness of, I think, sexism and gendered behavior that occurs in academia. And it's very interesting because like when you're a woman and you're young, you're the one that can relate and caretake for the students.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then when you're an associate, you're the one that can build the bridge between students and faculty and like make the system work better and hear all the sides and that. And then when you're full, you get into much more admin associate, and then you get into that at the full level. And when you get gray hair, you're treated differently.
Yeah.
There's an invisibility
Yeah.
to women in academia that people don't talk about. And it's weird because you're invisible and at the same time held to certain standards of your job is to maintain the department. Your job is to caretake the students. Your job is to work with some very entitled faculty and share that with finesse and care and compassion. That is different expectations than my male counterparts. That's just my experience.
No, yes,
Nobody talks about that. It's like the silver hair invisibility, yet always responsible and always accountable. So it's a weird paradigm to be in.
Yeah. And at the same time, you are at the point of your career when you know so much. Like you have, not only do you have like really deep technical knowledge or research knowledge or whatever, but you also have deep institutional knowledge. And it's like so misplaced. The expectations of what you can offer, I think, are like really misplaced, because here you are, like the most expert, and they want to make sure that you talk to people and, you know what I mean? Like do that momming or maybe even grandmothering right at this point, like role. And it is like a real like misuse. And then it's a different expectation. You're not ever asking professors to be your grandfather.
Yeah.
I mean, like it's not, doesn't
the expectations are very, very different. And like my male colleagues, it's like, oh, they protect their time and just do research. Well, that's just what it's like to be a full professor. A woman does that. There's question of her being a team player. There's quickly questions about her competency on multitasking. And also there is this kind of, because we're academics and we're really good at school and all those things, some people take on a leadership style, not to lead, but to hold leaders accountable to them rather than the system. So they do this kind of like, I'm going to catch you when you're wrong, and I'm going to show you when you're wrong, and I'm going to do this. And how do you manage that in a way that you're like, well, thank you. And we're going to keep moving forward.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Okay. What part of Navigate do you think had like the biggest impact on you? Like in terms of like what you learned or the parts of the program, like what do you take away as the biggest impact?
The biggest impact was to make a list of all the projects I'm doing and then accounting for how long they take me. And that kind of analysis, and it wasn't like, catered to every like second. It was just, every quarter of an hour, every half hour I would do. And I realized two things. I was saying yes to too many things. And the second, I was trying to do everything. And with that, it sounds like, well, it sounds pretty obvious, but I think it was empowering to see that data to tell me I can say no.
Yes.
And I role play with my students how to say no. Like I literally like teach my students, but you teach what you best need to learn.
Yeah.
And so I think as women, we need to sometimes have that data about ourselves to be able to say no.
Yeah. I love that. That's so good. And I think that a lot of times people like at that point of the program, they're like, this is so tedious. I don't want to do this. But that resistance is exactly why you have to do it, because it's like you have to see. There's several moments built into this program that are designed to make you feel uncomfortable. Like they're designed to like in the way that like we need to face reality. The reality is you are doing too many things. And it's not just that it feels like that, because I think sometimes the thought is like, it feels like I'm doing too many things, but I must just be mishandling them, right? Like it must be some interior flaw. No,
yes.
Objectively, you're doing too many things. And when you can see that objectively, then you can make better decisions. And I love that you're also like making sure that your students are making better decisions as well, which is like the biggest deal, making better decisions.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think there's more precision in learning this about yourself and asking the right questions.
Yeah.
So that you don't waste your time.
Yes.
That's the biggest learning curve for me I'm inclined to just work. I will work. That's just how I'm built.
Yeah.
Not in like a workaholic. I'm more of a recovering workaholic, but I like to work. But at the same time, people will not answer you directly and want you spin and work, and you're exhausted and yet you don't know why. And then you realize there was this crucial part of information you needed as an administrator, and you would have not even gone down that path.
Yeah.
And so you learn how to ask the better questions to make more efficient use of your time.
Yeah. And that's so, so, so important. So what do you think, like you did an initial round and a round 2 of Navigate. What are the like tools that you find yourself like going back to, the things that you're kind of still using or implementing?
I think the thing that I'm still learning,
Yes.
It's one of those things. It's not this like I said, you master one level and you get to the next one. And then, you get the gold coin or you get the special prize and like in a video game. I mean, it's this constant kind of reiteration. And so I think it's funny because we talk about the low-hanging fruit. And I'm a big theorist. So I will go to the lowest fruit. I'll shake the tree and I'll get like, okay, I've got like 4 of them. And then I'm like, there's one up there and there's one up there and there's one up there. And so I think the rounds of Navigate and why it's not just a one and done, it's that support group to keep you in good habits. And even if like you didn't have that great of a habit, it allows you space to just keep learning. Yeah. Like you don't have to be critical of yourself. You don't have to be perfectionistic. We're just all in this together and we're just all moving along. And I think that's the difference in other kind of products out there on productivity. And like the professor is in, the professor is out. Great podcast, great group. But I had to realize I can't straddle both. I'm in and out. I've made a commitment to this field and I need to be here. And if for some reason I have to leave this field, I have the strong habits that I can transfer them. And I think that's the difference that I really like that makes it unique for Navigate.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that, because I think one of the things that it took me a while, even as I was creating the program, like as a teacher, which is like maybe my biggest identity is teacher. And I really wanted to let me make at the beginning of the program in 2017, let me make these things and then everybody's going to be fine. And it took me a while to really be able to understand, it's like, no, these are developing practices. This is a journey that we're always on. And that idea of the spiral curriculum and that idea of rounds is essential to the program, because whether you decide to do extra rounds of the program or not, this is not over after 12 weeks. And because it's a career-long journey. And even in a way, I mean, I think our relationship with writing, at my heart, but also I'm a writer, that is a lifelong journey. And we're talking about deepening mastery, not about, I checked it off the list and I up-leveled. It's not the right metaphor. The metaphor is more definitely the image that came to my head was that walking those meditative mazes or something like that. It's just we're still on this kind of path and it's very round. Yeah. Did you submit your low-hanging fruit? What kind of results have you achieved from the program?
Yeah, since this project, the first 12 weeks, I was just I was ADHD, partly of writing techniques. Yeah. But I think the first led me to there was just this one manuscript that I've been working with a student. It should have been out, 18 months ago. And it was this binge process of she'd be like, oh, I'm gone for 3 months. And then it was okay, I'm ready to write. I have 2 weeks. And we're now we got it to this point. Yeah. And then she just boomeranged it back. And we need to do another round of edits. And, and I'm realizing now, I'm going to do this last bit, but this isn't about the product. This is about her avoiding submitting it.
Yes. Yes.
Do you know what I mean? Like I thought,
Yep.
gosh, I thought, and it's a parallel process. It's not like, oh, my students doing this. This is something I deal with as well. And so it's kind of been an aha moment to realize, oh, there's a parallel process here. And now we're finally getting that. So that's this close, like just a hair close to being submitted. The other piece I submitted for a grant for SAMHSA, we have a good likelihood, even despite the whole political quagmire that we're in. I think we have a good shot at that. And then the other piece is just, it's kind of me to organize kind of, okay, where are my projects? And I now put them in stages. And so I can identify not so much low hanging fruit, but how I can move things in the pipeline.
Right.
Because it's like, oh, the manuscript's about to be submitted. And I think I'm going to start a new project before I submit it. Like that's, that's like, no, you got to submit that. Then you can start the new project.
Yes. So. I love that. But I love those little moments where you're like, oh, here's what I've been doing. Like right when I'm about to cross the finish line, I go back to the start line, So yeah. Okay. The last few kind of questions that I have for you are actually like finish this sentence kind of thing. Okay. So the first one is, I almost didn't join Navigate because
the price. I wasn't sure about the price, and it wasn't the price of not having the money. It was the price of investing in myself and thinking I should have already learned this. And I didn't realize that putting that money, I even had money in my startup funds because I got this new job and I used it. And I was like, I used it to invest in myself. And that sounds really weird, but it's just, that was really important.
Yeah. The act of doing that, I think, is so critical in like showing yourself, to yourself that like, what is the most important investment that I can make? Or what's the most important thing about this career? And it's your brain, it's you. Because you can, let me save that $3,000 and I'll buy a new computer for my grad student, or I'll make sure that my grad student can go to a conference with me or whatever. But without you, taking care of yourself, that is the most important thing. And I think in this current kind of political situation that we're in the States, like it is the thing that nobody can take from you. Is those investments in yourself, and that like prioritizing yourself, but also prioritizing yourself and making yourself better, which is what you're doing when you participate in professional development programs. So,
yeah, I mean, the reality is academia as an environment is not the best behavioral experiment in how to be productive.
No,
you're going to get a lot of kudos, but they're very little things.
Yes.
And you need that sustainability, that kind of just that really big thing. You have to do the not urgent, but really important work. And I think that Navigate gets you into that zone and that reminder. And I regress. I'm not going to lie. I regress because the environment reinforces me to get these little things done. And then I have to set aside my hour and I have my timer. And then I just have to invest in myself.
Yes, absolutely. All right. The next fill in the blank or finish the sentence is my favorite part of Navigate was or is.
My favorite part of Navigate? I have a favorite moment. Is that all right?
That'd be great. Yes.
My favorite moment is we started the second round, with the Navigate. And we were all talking about where we are, what we wanted to do. And everybody, was really good. And there were people, that were like in the beginning stages and they were so thorough. So like, I've got this and I'm going to do this and I have this plan and this is where I'm at. I mean, they were so good. And I wasn't really taught that. I didn't have a mentor like that kind of thing and all that. But my favorite thing was then near the end of the check-in, this woman burst into tears and said, F blank, about our current atmosphere going on in academia. And my whole body just went into relief mode because I wasn't trying to prove I belonged. I wasn't trying to, I hadn't gone yet. It was like she said everything that we were all feeling.
Yeah.
And it was such a powerful moment of solidarity of just, let's just be real here. And it changed the whole dynamic of the group in such a positive way.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing that, because for me, always, like, there's no right answer to these questions. But for me, what I love about Navigate are the coaching calls. So, like, when we get together and we can talk to each other, especially in round 2, because in round 1, I know what everybody's going to ask. Like, I usually know the questions, and they're often questions that are not like, I could add it to the curriculum, the answer, but it's really a coaching. This is why we have coaching in the program, because people need to be coached around their thinking. And that's why we do that on the call. So I know what people are going to ask. I know how to answer them. Once we get to round 2 and everybody's kind of been through that, kind of the surface level questions and that kind of thing, is when we can really dig in. And we've had a lot of times we get to the end of the hour and I'm like, half the people are crying and we're so mad and frustrated about the world. And it's like, peace out. I got to go to the next meeting. But just knowing that there are other people out there in so many different types of institutions and types of jobs and stuff that are feeling the same way right now, I think has been really pivotal for me to know how to meet my own self as the leader of this program, to navigate how to talk about things. So, yeah.
It was a moment of just authenticity and just realness, and that, we don't have to perform in this space.
Yeah.
We're here to really talk about what are the challenges and let's get to work. Yeah. And that's completely different from any of the other things that are out there.
Yeah. Great. All right. Well, the last question is, who would you recommend Navigate to and why?
I would recommend Navigate, honestly, to associate professors.
Oh, I love that.
Because, we talk about the assistant and it's great, but there's still that assistance of wanting to perform in this heavy thing called tenure.
Yes.
So there's still the motivation and fear and anxiety is that evaluation part. When you're at the associate level, that gets a little less.
Yeah.
And then you can truly, and I wish I had gotten it right when I got associate, because it would have been that kind of okay, now what do I really want to do? And how can I wisely use my time? Because at associate, that's when you get asked to do everything. Yeah. And I think with Navigate, it would allow you to have the space to learn, pick and choose how to say no, how to say yes, and how to synergize things you say yes to towards what you want to get to.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for your time today and for the interview. And it was just lovely to have you on.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And I was nervous, but this was much easier than I thought.
Yeah, it's so lovely. Awesome.
Okay. Well, thank you for everything you've done and created. And it's nice to hear some of your own adventure.
Thank you. Thank you so much for spending your valuable time supporting yourself and your writing by listening to this episode. If you like what you heard today, the best way to say thank you is to hop on over to Apple iTunes and write an honest review. The more reviews, the more amazing academic women and non-binary people will find this podcast. So go write one now.